important to be able to discern. You have to be able to discern what you're seeing. And see, just because you can see, and it doesn't mean it's a form of teaching you. So even though you may start seeing things and you don't quite have an understanding with everything that you're seeing, doesn't mean you're going to stop seeing. You have to get the understanding. In all you're getting, get what? Okay, let's go on. Let me see. Let's go here when he was talking about going to the United Nations, where it says recently we were invited.
Yes, recently we were invited to go to the United Nations and bring the word of the Lord. While I was there to the General Assembly, I prophesied concerning that God was saying concerning the destiny of South Africa.
Wait a minute, you know what? Hold up a second. I'm sure you need to get this. Go back up to that last paragraph where it says, it's amazing. It amazes me.
It amazes me that many of the communist countries, even though they do not believe in God, are beginning to operate in the realm of the occult by using fortune tellers to try to spy out other lands. They are getting information by using spiritual methods that are similar in a perverted sense to the tactics of God. How much more then should the leaders of our nation begin to seek out the prophets of God?
That's why it's important to be able to have someone to see. When you're going into strange lands and you're going into unknown territory, you want to be able to have somebody that can see.
Yes,
because you are open prey. And that goes back to what I was saying. That's why we fall short. When you're moving into a new area, you need to be able to see in that area before you move there.
Amen.
A neighborhood is a new area. If you're moving into a new neighborhood, okay, what's over in this neighborhood? What spirits are operating in this neighborhood? What strongholds do I need to take down in this neighborhood? The same thing when you go on a new job. When you go on a new job, we need to find out, okay, what spirit, even though this person is the head, but what other spirit is governing this head? Because this person may be the head, but I guarantee you there's another spirit that's running that head. So you need to be sensitive in the spirit to be able to see. And that's why it's important this year. Don't just go places just to be going. Know where you're going and know what your purpose is for being there. And already do your homework before you get there. And your homework is pulling down the stronghold and taking authority. So when you walk in that place, your favor has to show up because you're there. But if you don't do your assignment, which is interceding on that place, pulling down the stronghold and opening up your spiritual eyes so you can take authority and see what's going on in the spiritual realm, don't expect for favor to show up just because you're there. The only way you're going to have favor is you got to do the work. We can pray and speak favor on your life. It's just like your prophetic word. Yeah, your prophetic word is going to come to pass when you start walking toward it. It's not going to just happen just because it was spoken. You got to start moving faith. Faith will put it in action. And faith is movement. Faith is not something that you just do. It doesn't just happen. You've got to have faith. And faith is stepping out. It's putting things in action. You've got to begin to move toward it. You've got to begin to walk toward it. Even when you hear it, faith is believing it. That's a form of faith right there when you believe it. If you don't believe it, you're not going to receive it, and it's definitely going to lie dormant. So they had spies that went out that were able to go and begin to see what's going on in different cities. Our government does that. If they want to take some territory, they're going to see what's going on in that territory before they take it, or see what they need to do to tear it down. Who's in charge? Who's running things? It's the same thing with us in the spirit realm. If we want to take some territory and sell some property that we want to see, well, we need to find out what the spirit is in this area. Not just who owns the property, who owns it in the spirit realm. What force is handling it in the spirit realm? Okay, let's go to recently.
Recently we were invited to go to the United Nations and bring the word of the Lord. While I was there speaking to the General Assembly, I prophesied some things that God was saying concerning the destiny of South Africa. I also prophesied over 2 relatives of the sharp-billed tick. Although I was not informed at all about the sharp-billed tick, I began to prophesy to one of the women with whom I spoke that her daughter would be released. that her seed would live. Within about 21 days, as I learned later, the Sharpeville 6 were to be executed. I received a call from the United Nations saying that the prophetic word you spoke is being tested because the South African government is going to execute them. I sought the Lord saying, God, your word is at stake. Lord, I hope I didn't misrepresent you. Those who invited us from the United Nations were being persecuted because we gave the word of the Lord. There were many unbelievers. 15 hours before the execution, God used the powers that be to postpone. Then they said that they would execute the sixth in 30 days. Again, the execution was postponed. Another execution date was set, only to be canceled once again. The final report said there will be no execution.
But the whole key to the word being tested, and see, that's what will happen. Even when you begin to see in the realm of the spirit, you can begin to see. And when you see or even hear, and when you see and hear, things may be tested because you begin to get the confidence. And this is to break your confidence down. It's just the same like the illustration he gave. He knew what he was seeing in the realm of the spirit. God spoke this prophetic word. Okay, these people, and that's stepping out on faith to say these people will not be executed. The government will not kill these people. But yet and still, because his word was being tested when he came back and said, okay, we're going to kill him in 6 days. And so you have to go to God and begin to ask him, Father, I know you showed me this. I know I saw this. I know this is the leading that you were giving me. But now I'm coming up against some oppositions and some things seem shaken. So don't doubt God. And the question, was it really you? Because God is not going to change his mind. If he gave it to you the first time, the faith is standing and believing that he said it. So you can't doubt him just because things begin to shake. And that happens when we get into the realm of the spirit and we begin to see. And this is how you mature. Because when you begin to see and you question and you doubt what you're seeing, then you're questioning and doubting God. And see, when God is speaking to us, all he's doing is having a conversation with himself. So if he's having a conversation with himself, why would he doubt himself? Why does he even have to question himself? But the only time the question comes in is when our intellect gets in the way. Because if God is in us and he's having a conversation, and if we start hearing and getting into the realm of the spirit, then God is speaking to himself. He's speaking to the God in you. And sometimes we need to let the God in us rise and let our intellect die, and so we can be sensitive to the spirit. And then we won't be questioned, but because of we get caught up in the world system and caught up in what we're dealing with and caught up in who we allow to speak into our ears, we find ourselves doubting and questioning the power that's in us, the power of God. So even though he was in a position where, okay, I know the Spirit of God told me that these people will not die. They will not be executed. But because somebody came back and said, well, you know that word you spoke? I don't know. They're talking about killing everybody in 6 days. And see, when people get to hear that, fear sets in. And if you allow fear to set in, then you start doubting God. And you start bringing a delay to his word. That doubt always brings a delay. Whenever you deal with doubt, you're dealing with hindrance. And you're dealing with a delay. So that's why we're in a season now where we